So for those who haven't been here before, our recording gets put up on our YouTube channel. When you're talking on the video, your name doesn't show, just FYI. Eracism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was founded in the summer of 1993. We treat all human beings of color with love and respect. Join us. I have never done it from memory before. It's pretty good. So the way we operate the meeting is we have a atmosphere of respect, no name calling, no put downs, no insults. If somebody wants to get on the list, put up one finger and move it. Don't go like that. Go back and forth so the movement catches my attention, and I'll put your name on the list. I will call people in order of how they have gotten on the list. If a person is speaking and you want to ask them a clarifying question, which is not a question to make a point, but a question to ask them to clarify what they have said. What did you mean by this word? What did you mean when you said, not how could you think such a thing? It's not a clarifying question. So if you want that, two fingers, again, move them around a bit. We ask that when you're not speaking, after we do the introductions, that you keep yourself on mute until you're called on and remute when you're done speaking. The speakers, when they're called on, they get 2 minutes to speak, and I'll be keeping a timer. And if you can't hear my timer go off, I'll do this, or I'll just say something. And am I forgetting anything? I mean, keeping your cell phones muted was when we met in person, and as long as your cell phone muted, it's not really an issue. So you might hear mine because I can't mute it because I have to keep the timer on it. So let's start with introductions, and I'll call on each person since everybody's screen is a different order. Let's start with Dee Dee. Oh, tell us where you are and your history with Erace.
Oh, yes.
I'm Dee Dee, and I'm from Riverside County in California. And my history with Eracism is I got introduced to the meeting and B in 2019, one weekend when I flew to Atlanta to hear my sister sing in a concert, and she was a member of this meeting. And so she invited me to tag along, and I did, and I loved it, so there we are. And then when the pandemic came along, the meeting went to Zoom because I was back in California. I said, oh, great. And so I don't miss Zoom. I don't miss Eracism meetings very often. So here I am.
Great, thanks. Welcome. Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate. This is my first year with Erace, and I am in Northern Kentucky, right outside of Cincinnati.
Oh. Beatrice?
Hi, I'm Beatrice, and I'm in Eastport, Georgia, and I am one of the co-founders of Erace Atlanta. Glad to see everybody. Hope everybody stays safe.
Thank you. Louise?
I'm Louise. I'm in Austin now, but lived in New Orleans for many, many years. In fact, started going to the meetings a couple of decades ago, to the Erace meetings, been in Austin since Katrina, and I love the meetings also.
Marion?
Hi again, everybody. I'm Marion. I'm in New Orleans. I began attending the discussions after reading an article in the newspaper in 1993. We met at the Broadmoor Library uptown. So I'm glad to see everyone this morning. Everybody stay safe.
Thank you. Pedro?
Yeah, I'm safely in Austin, Texas, where it's probably going to be 98 degrees today. I'm thinking this is about a year since I started attending at the invite of one of our friends here. So that would be Louise, of course. Yeah, I think the articles, just things that normally I wouldn't come across. And then the discussions have been very revelating to me. So really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Jean?
Jean, I'm Jean Walker. I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland. And this is, I believe, my third meeting. Beatrice told me about it. I've been involved in the Erace group in Atlanta since I think my sister Barbara, who's been a member for a while, told me about it. And I'm glad to be here, and you all are in my thoughts and prayers, and be safe.
Thank you. Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm another Austinite, introduced to the group about a year ago by Louise. And I really enjoy the conversations and the solidarity of the group here. So thank you for welcoming me to the group.
Thank you. Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am in Harvey, Louisiana. I've been coming to Erace since June of 2007, and I am so happy to see so many people from around the country join the discussion.
Thanks. Marla?
Hey, good morning. My name is Marla. I have been coming to Erace for about a year, thanks to Phyllis. And I'm also in the New Orleans area. I'm very grateful for Erace every week, but especially today. It's a wonderful diversion, especially the topic. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks. Marva?
Good morning. My name is Marva. I've been coming to Erace post Katrina. I don't know why I say that every Saturday, but I'm not looking forward to riding out this hurricane. I'm located in New Orleans.
Thank you. Glenn?
Glenn Abdullah. I've been a member of Erace since 1994, and I'm looking forward to the meeting today.
Thanks.
And I'm from New Orleans.
Thanks, everybody. If there might be new people popping on, because that happens sometimes. So again, I'm Phyllis. I'm the facilitator today. I've been with Erace since 2008 when I moved to New Orleans from Northern California. And had a hurricane 2 months after I got here that I had to evacuate for. So I got schooled early. So the reason I brought this topic is probably in June-ish, Marla sent me a link from an Instagram website from the comedian Amanda Seales, S-E-A-L-E-S, who's African-American. And if everybody watched the extra links that were provided, it showed the video of the woman saying that she doesn't, she washes once every 6 days, showers, and that she washes her hair and conditions her hair and washes her face, and she's white. And the water just, the soap just runs down, and she considers that completed showering. And Amanda Seales, it was, there was to the left, a young African-American woman facially reacting to everything this person said, and as many were. And then, and I couldn't figure out how to share the Amanda Seales video. Plus, you know, it's got pretty strong language. So it was posted on her Instagram page on June 10th, if anybody wants to go watch it later. And so my first thought was, oh my gosh, my first thought was, oh my God, do Black people think white people don't know how to wash themselves? And then my second thought was, do white people not know how to wash themselves? So it was kind of a whole thing that swirled around in my head for a long time. I asked Nancy if this was a stereotype of white people, and she said sometimes. And I asked a friend of mine in California who's Black, and he said sometimes. So it was pretty funny. And yeah, I became really concerned about other white people. So I wanted to say, so the other thing is, I think I was at work when Marla sent this to me, and I started reading the comments on the Amanda Seals post, and I'm going to read some of them to you. And they're pretty funny. And I started laughing so hard at my desk, I had to stop reading them because I was at work. So somebody's, and most of these comments are from Black people, and they wonder why they look 20 years older than us. We'll spend a whole mortgage payment on laser treatment to get rid of wrinkles. How about starting with scrubbing off those dead skin cells? Oh, where's the one? There's one. Shoot. Well, oh, this is nothing new. Historically, whites have not been washing since the caveman era. In fact, upon the Moors invading Spain, Portugal, we had to teach them about bathing. Look it up. We occupied Europe for 700 years, teaching them the light when they lived in the Dark Ages. There's something about the King of France only bathing once a year and how bad the hygiene was at Versailles. Sorry. I think there is belief that there are scrubbing bubbles in the soap shampoo that cleanses them on the way down. Even if she showered every day, her technique is not a body cleansing technique. This is sad. Hair shampoo running down parts of your body will not cleanse you. I know this is not true for all white women, but for those who do, this is awful. What does she mean? It's not her past, it's her present. What was the past? Did you not wash it all? So those are just some. I mean, I recommend you go to, if you have Instagram, go to Amanda Seals and read the June 10th post, and her comments that she's talking into are hilarious. She's a comedian. So as I thought more about this and read more about this, you know, the idea that being able to get away with being dirty is a form of white privilege. And, you know, and then the whole other side where the stereotype of Black, brown, and poor people is that they're dirty, they're physically unclean. And how, you know, obviously that's not true based on all these comments. The other thing that was added as an additional was the article about Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, if that's how you say her name, and them saying they didn't wash their kids, and unless they could see dirt. Like, guess they don't know that dirt isn't always visible. And one of the comments on Amanda's page was, now we know where COVID came from, meaning the white people not bathing. So I really thought this is not, you know, a stereotype of white people is not something I think we've discussed at Erace a lot. Obviously, we don't believe anything is true for all people. So we have to be careful of that. But obviously, there are some women, white people, who don't bathe appropriately or have knowledge about how to do it appropriately. So with that, I will open the list, and if anybody wants to get on, feel free, don't be shy. Raise one finger. Okay, I've got Marva and Michelle, and anybody else right now? Okay, Marion, all the M's. Okay, Marva.
I recently saw on a TV talk show where a celebrity couple was discussing their hygiene, family hygiene, and the husband said he only bathes 3 times a week, and they gave their toddler a bath once a week. And I can't remember. And this was on national TV. And they didn't seem like they thought the discussion was inappropriate. And they said the infant wasn't dirty and there was no visible dirt on him. And they saw no need to bathe him. I was wondering about if he did number 2, do they use wipes? And I just was shocked at the discussion. And they were celebrities. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Amanda Seal's video talks about the doo-doo crumbles and the doo-doo essence. So that's all I'll say about that. Michelle, you're next.
Yeah, I admit to, when I read this article, I was somewhat confused about what we were aiming for as far as a discussion here, because I was a little bit confused by it. So I did a little bit more research on it. And funny enough, on my Twitter feed last week, something popped up, a debate going on with, I happened to notice with Sam Sanders commenting on something that somebody said about his show. And that led to somebody else saying something, oh, you mean the soap show that you did a few weeks ago? And I thought that was a great show. And at this point, you'd picked this article and I'd seen it and started to read it and everything. So I clicked on that and I went back to his show and I pulled up a show from the 13th of August where he interviewed Carl Zimring, who wrote a book, Clean and White. And I put a link to the Sam Sanders show in the chat here for anybody who's interested, but it certainly did enlighten me a little bit more. It made it a little bit more clear about where this trope and has come into play, and starting off in the 18th and the 1900s in the soap ads, and the whole idea about what cleanliness says about race, and how I guess one of the things they mentioned was like some of the soap ads at that time literally had images of using soap to clean the black off of you. And so it's a very long, and unknown to me until you chose this article and forced me to kind of go back and look at it, trope that's been used for hundreds of years at this point to, once again, other people of color, and point, as a way of, separating the races into, the haves and have-nots, and who can choose to be clean, like you said before, and get away with it, and not be clean. So anyway, I was just saying, I recommend that podcast. It was enlightening and
Thank
had
you.
more to it.
Marion.
Okay, from the time I was about 12 years old on, well into my late 20s, I grew up thinking that white people didn't take baths, or based on what I heard overheard a conversation between 2 older members in my family who lived about 300 miles from here in rural Louisiana. And I was in the next room and I heard this conversation. Those white people don't take baths on a regular basis. So my ears up and the conversation continued. I won't go into any more details about it, but that's what I believed. So when integration started and public transportation became integrated, I remember I was riding on the St. Charles Avenue streetcar going to school, to high school, and a white man sat to me on the streetcar. So I cringed. And I just happened to have been reading a book. So I pulled the book over, jammed it between the window and my body. And I saw the man looking at me, but I stayed in that cringe until I got off streetcar to, that was my stop to go to school. The man was very polite. He actually said hello to me, and I don't remember if I spoke back to him, but I remember cringing. And all because I'd heard this conversation between my two older family members saying that white people didn't keep themselves clean. So, as I said, well into my late 20s, and as time went on, I went to school with white people in college, and I found out that just wasn't the case because I never detected any odors. So maturity and time dispelled that belief that white people were dirty and didn't take baths.
Thank you, Marion. Marla is next, but she has left the screen. There she is, Marla. And the list is open after Marla.
Dog issue.
Gotcha.
No, in reading this, I just found it, fascinating for sure and very entertaining. One thing I wanted to point out about Ashton Kutcher and Mia Kunis, and I never know if I'm saying that correctly either, is I think that they also have this kind of privilege as far as their stance on the environment. And they believe, I saw a couple of sources where they believe that what they're doing as far as, limiting water and resources and things like that, that they are helping the environment as such by not bathing as frequently and so on. So it's interesting to me, the notions of hygiene and privilege in that regard. You have the privilege of being able to be an environmental activist or whatever, and therefore make decisions about you and your kids based on those thoughts and beliefs. In addition, it's interesting to note that after they came out about their bathing habits and those of their children, that all kinds of people came to support them. White folks came to support them. Experts, pediatricians, who said, "Well, yeah, that's fine. You don't need to bathe your child like that, and only if they get really dirty is it necessary. And you're taking away the skin's natural oils and so on and so forth." So the privilege of that also, where they have this whole army of experts coming to their rescue to say that what they said really wasn't that bad. Interesting.
Thanks, Marla. Beatrice?
Yeah. My initial response was that I don't want to know your business about your hygiene. Why is this something that you want to tell me? Because I really do not want to know how often you bathe, whether you bathe your legs, whether you wash your feet, because I find it horrible. I find it abhorrent. And it is, I guess, it's a child of the trend of social media, of we want everybody to know about our business. But some business is personal. That's why they have a door. When I was teaching and the child would come, having gone to the lavatory at school and start talking, I said, "Baby, don't tell us what you did in the restroom. That's why they have a door. We don't want to know. That's personal, private. Just keep it to yourself." Some of the issues where hygiene is people are deprived of hygiene because they're incarcerated, or going back to the people who were victims of the Holocaust and in the concentration camps. This makes that association between there's some of us who have a privilege to do or to not to do, and it doesn't affect who you are. I heard that podcast, a part of it that Michelle was talking about, and there was a reference to a commercial where some product, and this has been recent, some product the woman was using, and gradually the skin, she started with a darker skin, and then after using this product, the person had a lighter skin, as if being clean means being white or pure or light. And so there's some associations here that are very unfortunate. And I must tell you, and I don't like stereotypes, but as long as I worked in Montgomery County, Maryland, Department of Human Relations, it was Human Relations then. You go in the restroom and white women did not wash their hands. I mean, it was I have never in my life seen an African American woman leave the bathroom without washing their hands. Now, I'm sure that all European American women do not leave the restroom without washing their hands, but those are that's the only group of women that I've ever seen leave a restroom without washing their hands. So much so that one of my colleagues on the staff would say, "Girl, don't eat no food from those people's house when they have a potluck," So that the whole idea of having the privilege of we can turn on a spigot and get water, where there are people who have to go down to a river that's dirty and gather up a gallon of water and put on their head and walk back. There's so much that we do not realize that is classist and privileged. And so I was just so offended by this woman telling me about not washing her legs. And you have, no matter what the pediatrician and skin people tell you, there are layers of skin that you need to get off. They're not going to fall off on their own. And bathing the baby, that was a big deal for the baby to be in the water. When my babies are old now, but come on, there's just so much here that it is just so disturbing, some of it. But that's me. Keep your business about in the bathroom to yourself, baby. I don't care what you do.
Thank you, Beatrice. I think Dee Dee had your finger up. Yeah, go ahead. And the list is open after Dee Dee.
At first, when I was reading this article, and everybody was saying, that that woman bathed once a week or she bathed twice a week and yuck, and, just everybody reacted. But when you think about it, when we were kids, we took a bath on Saturday night, and that was your bath for the week. And I mean, my generation, I'm in my 70s, my generation, we were raised that way, and when I went away to college and I had a roommate who was white and she was taking a shower and washing her hair every day. And I'm like, holy cow, her hair is going to fall out, because I wasn't used to that, and so when I was reading the article, I was reacting, and then I kind of thought back on how I was raised, and maybe I shouldn't be reacting so much because I was raised that way. And, my mother, who's looking down at me from heaven right now, is probably not pleased that I'm bringing this up. But, there was some of us that were raised that way, I mean, after I read the article last night, I made sure I washed the bottom of my feet when I took a shower last night. Okay. Which is tricky because I didn't want to fall in the shower. Anyway, I'm done.
Thank you. Louise is on the list. The list is open after Louise.
Well, I just wanted to join Dee Dee coming out of the bathroom closet, as it were, about how I'm the youngest of 8, and yes, as a child, we would share baths. I would have to have, because I was the youngest, I'd have one of the last baths, which is not that pleasant after 3 boys. And so we were, and I think it was to conserve money because of the hot water. We only had a certain amount of hot water, and so,
Nancy.
yeah, so we didn't have that many baths growing up. I do believe with the saving power that I think, people have way too long showers. You don't need to be in there for 10, 15, 20 minutes. I mean, I hear people say that they have 20-minute showers. That boggles my mind. I can have one in a few minutes, so conserving water is good. This reminds me, we had a talk about this years ago with Erace. I remember stereotypes of white women not washing their hands. I remember it very well. And I hate stereotypes, and I don't know, where did they come from, and Marion telling us that she heard older family members talking about, I mean, where does this all come from? And so, I don't know, I hate stereotypes, but I also want to put in, and Beatrice, you might want to shut your ears, but the what is known as a horse bath. Sorry, it's a term that I don't know if you know or not know, but just wash the general smelly bits, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying really. I hate stereotypes. I do wash my hands all the time, especially now, of course. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Okay, you can get on the list if you want to say more. Nancy, you are next.
No, I just wanted to say that, sometimes we're sharing, certain, the way we were raised, and sometimes part of the country that you grew up in. Like I grew up in the North and I lived in a tenement building growing up. And sometimes the landlord didn't pay the oil bill, or they didn't pay the heating bill or whatever. We didn't have heat is my point, okay? And so you had to take what is called a sink bath. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
That's the same as a horror bath or a cat bath.
Really?
It's the
I
same.
mean, because you didn't have hot, I mean, I watch Survivor sometimes and I laugh. I'm like, you doing this for fun. No, what if you lived in a 4-story walk up that didn't have heat and hot water? How would you survive that? Try that in the wintertime in January and February in a northeastern tenement. Try doing that. So you had to you did what you had to do, to survive and to live within the confines of your circumstances and whatnot. So yes, as I got older and and you just have to think of the times, Black people coming out of the South into the North, that was not a day at the beach. Okay. But you still were faced with, people think there's no racism in the North. Yes, there is. But as times went on and you were able to move around and live in better circumstances, your daily processes and procedures improved, I'll put it like that, as you were able to do. So a lot of times, some might be privileged, but sometimes it might be your circumstances. You just don't know what certain people try to present their best when they come out in public, but you don't know what they're going home to. No heat, no hot water, landlord didn't pay the electric, whatever.
Do you want to get on the list again? I mean,
I'll
actually.
think about it.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
So the list is actually open too, if anybody else wants to get on. Marion.
Another story, Louise. Louise told me I tell stories. I can remember we lived in a house that didn't have a water heater. This was when I was a very little girl, 9, 10, 11 years old. And I can remember my mother having these 3 big pots. You all know the term Dutch oven. It wasn't called then. All I know, they were 3 big pots. And I remember my dad coming home from work. He worked at the American Sugar Refinery, and he would, my mother would start heating the water about a half hour before he walked in the back door. And it was these 3 big pots. And the bathroom was behind the kitchen. So I can see my daddy carrying those 3 big pots, hot pots of water to the bathtub. And I thought that was normal. My dad died when I was 13 years old. So shortly thereafter, we moved to a house. And when we moved further down the street, about maybe a mile, and I saw this big white cylinder-shaped object in the corner in the kitchen. And I read everything when I was a little girl. So I saw and I think it was a water heater. And I asked my mom, I said, what is this for? She said, it heats water. And I didn't understand that until
Beatrice.
we took our first bath in that house, and you didn't have to heat pots of water. But I can remember my dad carrying those 3 big pots of water to the bathtub when he came home from work to take his bath. And I just thought that was so thrilling. You didn't have to heat pots of water. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Beatrice is next, and then Louise. Anybody else?
Oh, you left me out.
Oh, Nancy. Okay, sorry. Put you on after Louise.
I think that it is so unfortunate that we do not provide opportunities for hygiene for everyone. People who are unhoused, there should be showers, there should be restrooms, there should be places that people can take care of their personal needs for hygiene. Just because a person is unhoused or a person is incarcerated should not mean that the dignity that one can have or get from being able to use their own personal hygiene should be denied them. And I think that it is intentional. And
Pedro.
it is unforgivable. You expect people, for example, who are unhoused to go and maybe find a job, or you look at people who are asking for money from you or food or whatever they're asking for in the corners, and why don't they go get a job? People can't get clean, people can't, there are no showers, there's no place for them to take care of their personal hygiene needs. And I think we need to, people who are in positions where changes can be made in that area need to think seriously about that, how we dehumanize a group of people. And look at the immigrants, the people at the border. The whole immigration situation is deplorable because it is a major problem that needs a major solution, not just little bitty stuff. But in the article referring to people that haven't bathed, haven't been able to bathe for 40 days, no matter what our personal growing up stories were. As we got older, we did have choices because our circumstances changed. It was not that we didn't, that now we know better and do better. It is that we have opportunities. Our opportunities are better now. And those are our personal growing up stories, legitimate as they are. I think do not inform what happens to people today out of neglect and intention, especially where the result is dehumanization. I mean, the women incarcerated women, just we need to do better. We know better now. We need to do better.
Thanks, Beatrice. Louise is next.
Sorry, I am going to go from the subject again and go back to Marion and to our growing up stories. But because I was one of the last in the bath, it would, tepid, nasty water. My mum would heat up a kettle and bring a kettle worth and pour it in. But of course, you'd have to back up in case, the boiling water splashes you and stuff. So that was all. I just wanted to add that last little bit. But yes, I'm also familiar with heating up kettles and pots. Sorry, I'm taking away from the meaning. It's very difficult to find a source of discussion for this as it does as relation to race, apart from saying stereotypes, which is a whole nother conversation, I think, that we could have. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you. And white privilege. So Nancy's next.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more, piggyback on what Marion said, because that's how you did it. You heated the water up on the stove and then you put it in the sink, okay? So if you happen to have hot water and you could take a full bath, that was a luxury back then. I mean, you're thinking back in the 50s and the 60s and we didn't have showers. I was a grown adult living in my own apartment before there was a shower, because where my family lived in the Northeast, the buildings were so old that they didn't have showers. They had clawfoot tubs. And because, of the circumstances of the hot water situation, a bath was a luxury. It really was, to actually sit in the water, in a whole tub of water. That was, so to this day, I am a bath person, and I know there are shower people and there are bath people, and I have both, but I still prefer my bath.
Thank you. Next is Pedro. And the list is open. Oh, Glenn, I see you. Go ahead, Pedro.
Yeah, I've got a few water stories just real quick. First, I think Beatrice's point is really very worthy. The dignity of being human is a primary right that if it's denied, then all other rights just seem, unimportant. And we have way too many people, we look at the homelessness situation, and that's such a sad indication, and learning more about what it is to be homeless might create some change there. But also, in Libya, under Gaddafi's government, which, by the way, they had the highest human development index in the continent of Africa. That means people live better in Libya as a majority population anywhere in the continent of Africa. And it was overthrown for humanitarian reasons. I mean, just the lying of it is so obvious. But they had the sandstone aquifer. They had tapped into the largest water deal in the, I think in the world, that the Nile, if it ran for 1,000 years or something, would not equal the amount of water in this aquifer. And under their government, they had these huge water irrigation systems throughout so much of the desert. And that was a large reason of their success as a country. And I think I just bring that up because we destroyed all that. And it really, really bothers me. The other thing is there's 97.5% of the water on Earth is not drinkable. It is a resource that needs to be saved, appreciated, and it may, during our lifetime, like oil, a really important deal. But anyhow, those are kind of scattered thoughts, but thank you.
Thanks, Pedro. Glenn is next.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear all these true confessions this morning. Nancy, I'm glad to know that about Nancy. I thought she was born in Black privilege. Because, that's the same thing I went through as a child. We didn't have a hot water heater, and we had to put pots on the stove to heat up the water. And it was, if I remember correctly, it was on Saturday we took a bath. And the rest of the week we were at the face bowl, what we call a wash up, hitting the vital parts. And surprisingly, at the same era, I was in the 50s, in that same era, I remember my cousin lived in the project and they had hot water. The project was a better living environment than when I was living. The Lafitte project at the time. So yeah, it's you really can't judge, put the stereotype on people because you forget you start believing in that stereotype, then you forget.
Are you finished, Glenn? You kind of broke up a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm finished.
Thanks. The list is open. Marva and Nancy. Go ahead, Marva. Anybody else?
All of the old time stories I can identify with because I'm 75 years old. I do not remember hearing about the 20-gallon galvanized tub, what we stood in as children and suds up, and they poured the water over us to wrench us off. And I came from a big family, and I was the only girl for about 15 years. And I had the privilege of being the first in the tub, a galvanized tub. And my brothers followed me and was 3 at a time. We were all small children. And I got the privilege of being the only girl in the tub. And I had 2 brothers that bed together because they was older and larger. And the 3 little brothers got in together. And when that galvanized tub was not used, it was hanging on the side of the house on a large nail because they didn't have a room in the house for it. Okay, Sharon, that's my story.
Thank you. Next, I have Nancy. Anybody else? Go ahead, Nancy.
And Dee Dee.
Oh,
Dee Dee
Dee Dee.
put it-
Thank you.
Aw. Galvanized tub. I see that, Louise. That's so cute. No, Glenn, I never told you I was born into Black privilege. Quite the opposite. But you're, I think too, a lot, like both my grandmothers were domestics, okay? And so you were going to be clean, okay? I know that, there were, as this article said, the myth that, Black people were not clean, I guess because of our hair, or maybe we didn't wear clothes like white people did or what have you. But my grandmothers were domestics, and trust me, we were clean, all right? There was you were gonna be clean. You weren't leaving out of that house without being clean. And I know all of you all have heard the story about you better have on clean underwear because you might get hit by a bus and you're gonna end up in the emergency room and they ain't gonna see your dirty underwear. So you're gonna be clean when you leave out of here. So that truly was a myth about, and if I think because the domestics went to other people's houses and cleaned up and cleaned their children. And when they came home, they made sure that their houses were definitely clean and that you were clean and that you were going to do the cleaning. Because I did a lot of cleaning growing up. So I think those habits and were passed on to us. And so that there are those myths about African Americans not being clean. And also, Glenn, you're right about the living in the projects. They did have heat and hot water. Now the elevators might not have worked, but they had heat and hot water. All right, when we didn't. Okay.
Thank you. I want to take a minute and say welcome to Marjorie.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Have you been
Did this start at
10 Central Time?
Central Time? Because I'm on Eastern, but
Okay.
did it just start or it's been in progress?
It's about an hour in, but you're welcome to stay.
Okay.
How did you hear about us?
So I'm friends with Stephanie Waters, and she is part of the Erace group in Atlanta.
Okay.
So she's been letting me know about these group meetings.
Great. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
We have a little bit more of conversation time, and then we'll do a wrap up. And welcome to, if you want to get on the list, put 1 finger up in the meantime, and 2 fingers if you want to ask a clarifying question to someone that specifically is, what did you mean when you said kind of question. And don't feel you need to have to defend your hygiene routines. Although a lot of people are sharing theirs. And we ask that everybody stay muted unless they're on the list. So, okay, so I've got Dee Dee and Louise. Nancy, you want on the list again? Okay, so, and Pedro. So
Take me off, actually.
Okay, so Dee Dee and then Pedro and then Nancy. Okay.
One particular thing that made me think about when I was reading the article is how cleanliness can be used as a tool to hold people down, to depress people, and and it was used in slavery days. Even the owners that could afford to do better and provide better, they didn't, because of a control issue. And it has lived with us, and it reared its ugly head again in the confinement quarters on the borders, because they aren't being provided with cleanliness items there as well. And there's a lot of churches that try and collect things and take them down there, and sometimes they've been taken away from them, and those kind of things. And it's being used as a control item. And that's very, very sad. I mean, the whole situation down there shouldn't be happening, but this is just adding to it. And so I never thought about cleanliness as a tool, but that's what's happening with it.
Thank you. Pedro and then Nancy.
Yeah, just a couple more water kind of deals.
Martha.
One of the things that, I was speaking about Malcolm last week, but the Nation of Islam, of course, one of the things that he really highlighted was how important hygiene was in pulling yourself up and having and regaining the dignity that all humans deserve. But also I wanted to just mention that, I've learned to judge a government by how it provides for its most needy and the majority population. And I've been to Cuba 8 or 9, or not 9 times, but about 8 times over, not since 2015. But I routinely would go to the Bay of Pigs, and I befriended someone there that was about my age. And he had a picture of post-Cuba revolutionary 1959, 1960, maybe 61. And they had running water in that rural area. And that was an immediate thing that was addressed by the revolutionary government of that time that we're so critical of, was bringing water, literacy, and those types of things. But I just remember the water thing very, very distinctly, and seeing that picture. So yeah, water is, we take it for granted, but like people have mentioned, it's a millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people throughout the world, have to walk and get water and carry it back to their location. Mainly women are doing that, by the way, according to Oxfam and that type of thing. But anyhow, that's all I had. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Nancy.
I just also wanted to further mention that, that the situation with the hot water and the clawfoot tub and not having a shower. I mean, everybody, it just wasn't African Americans who had the Saturday night bath or had a clawfoot tub or had to take a sink bath. That I think that was just 1940, 50, well, say 1960s and back. Earlier, that was just how and that's how we handled our hygiene routines, as Phyllis puts it. I mean, because that's what you had available to you at that time. Since that time, as newer housing was being built and showers were installed, not every house had a shower back then. And so now pretty much showers are preferred to taking a bath. But I think that's just how hygiene routines have evolved over the years. So I think everyone, that just wasn't unique, to my community at that time or my household.
Thanks, Nancy. Marva, and then I think we'll close the list after Marva and start the roundup.
During slavery, poor hygiene was a tool to make us feel less than. On the other hand, white privilege had us nurse their white babies and cook their food. I don't want to eat food prepared by unclean hands. I don't want my babies to suckle on unclean breasts. Uh, that works against what you all what white people did during slavery time. And it's a feeling of white privilege to put the people of color and slaves down and portray them as unclean creatures. And yet your most precious possessions would suckle on an unclean body, and you would eat food prepared by unclean hands. What's wrong with that thinking? That's all.
Thank you, Marva. I think back then everybody was unclean, so they didn't think about it. Really. Okay, so we will start the roundup, and I have that the 4 people who haven't spoken were Jean, Kate, Leonetta, and Marjorie. Did I miss anybody? Okay, so we'll do the roundup. Those 4 people will get 2 minutes, and then everybody else will get a minute. So we'll start with Jean.
Yeah, I had to unlock. Yeah, I appreciate all the discussion, and it's been a very interesting discussion today. One of the things that I got out of the article is the fact that white people look at minorities as being dirty and unclean. And that's not, of course, true. And except in places like the prisons, the border wall, other places where they're deprived of good hygienic practices. Women in prison don't get the kinds of materials, things that they need to take care of themselves. And I just think it's really interesting. And all the homeless people that I've run into, and when I worked, I used to speak to a number of people all the time until they disappeared. And that was true at one museum. There was several people who came in there. Nobody ever smelled. This is black and white, but they did have access. At least one did. The other one, I don't know how he survived, but people, I think, sort of instinctively want to be hygienic. They don't want to be dirty. They want to be able to have these things. And that I agree with Beatrice, who said our personal hygiene is personal. And yes, everybody should have access to showers. We do have some places here in DC where you can come in, get a shower, a meal. And I think you do in Atlanta. Oh, you're in New Orleans. You may as well. So that was my take on it. I focus more on the fact that white people are so stupid and look at other people who are non-white as being less than themselves. And it's the white supremacy. So, and everybody in New Orleans, please stay safe, and you'll be in my thoughts and prayers. Look forward to the next discussion. Thank you.
Jean. Next is Kate. 2 minutes.
I want to thank Phyllis for bringing this discussion to us. It was great, the topic anyway. And I think people have choices in whether in their hygiene, and some of us choose what color we are to do more than others do. And that's about it. Thanks again.
Thanks, Kate. Leonetta.
Good morning, everybody. This topic brought up some memories, and I just want to share them with you. Some of you that have been in Erace as long as I have, remember the story that I told about the first time that I saw a white person, and it was at the Swagman's on LeVar Road in Airline. This little girl, she was in a basket in front of me, and I was with my mother behind, and I kept looking at this little girl. And I just couldn't figure out, I didn't ask my parents or anything, but when I got home, I got in the bathtub and I started cleaning, washing myself because for some reason, I thought I was dirty and she was clean. Nobody told me nothing, but that was just what I thought. And the second memory was when I was spending the summers with my grandparents. This was my daddy's parents, because my mother's parents had indoor plumbing, but my daddy's parents didn't. And I can remember that galvanized tub, taking a bath during those summers, and how fun it was. I thought it was funny. And it was on the side of the house when it wasn't in use. And when they finally got the indoor plumbing, I missed that. I really missed that, because that was one of the joys of summer vacation with the grandparents. And those were the two memories. And as far as the subject, I thought it was crazy. It's out in Louise, it is full of stereotypes. I just think one person saw one white person not wash their hands, and everybody got blamed for it. Just like white people, they said we're dirty. They came across one dirty black person, and everybody else was dirty. So I guess that's how stereotypes start. So I just thought it was a crazy subject, but it did bring up some good memories. And it's just crazy to associate cleanliness with race and to use it as a form of racism. I think it's just crazy.
Thank you,
That's what
Leonetta.
racism is, craziness.
Yep. Thank you, Leonetta. Next is Marjorie.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to keep it short because I did miss a lot of the meeting, and out of respect for the group, I don't want to say anything repetitive, but I'll just give my general thoughts on what I read last night. I thought the article was very mocking from a white privilege perspective, because I feel that if it had been written by said or written by a minority, a Black person, they definitely would have been roasted. They would have been made fun of. So I found it offensive. Anecdotally, I will say that the number of Black friends I have that I've had the pleasure of working with in the professional field as sales reps, my personal trainer, these are probably the most hygienic, put together people I know, the most coiffed people I know. A lot of that probably has to do with, going back to the slave days and maybe not having all the access and the dignity that they deserved. Marva, I did appreciate your comments because we discussed that very thing that you brought up when I was in a book club and we read The Help. And it was just, it was interesting how, the whites wanted to separate all the people that they were giving their most prized possessions to, but we did bring that topic up. So I appreciated your comment. And I got mixed up on the time, but hopefully we'll be here joining you when I can next on time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Let me stop the timer. Sorry. Okay, so next, everybody else who speaks in the roundup now will get 1 minute, and I will start with Dee Dee.
I need to say that I have totally enjoyed this hour and 15 minutes. It's neat to meet new faces, because when I went to this meeting, I didn't know if I was going to be here by myself or if there was any others. And, you know, I got B here and Jean, and then the rest of y'all are new. And so this was great. Okay. Totally loved it. And I'll be back.
Great. We'll be happy to have you. Next is Louise.
I'm going to pass, but just to say, I'm thinking of you, New Orleans, and all my other New Orleans friends that aren't here on Erace, and hope you are safe.
Thank you. Pedro.
Yeah, I just wanted to just finish up by acknowledging my white privilege. I never had to heat up water. Of course, I never was particularly excited about taking a bath or a shower as a kid anyhow. But that's what privilege is all about. I also just wanted to say that I'm glad that you have a superhero, Glenn, in New Orleans to fight this hurricane. I'm sure he will be the difference. But I left my email in the chat if anybody needs to get out of there. I'm just very concerned about that hurricane, that warm water, and you know, just the way climate stuff goes. And so, you know, please err on the side of safety, and look forward to seeing everybody next week.
It won't be next week. It'll be September 11th because of Labor Day weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Reminder.
Sure. Nancy.
Interesting topic. Okay. Yeah, very different. Okay. Everyone be safe. Okay. I will, I thought I was going out of town, but I will be sheltering in place at the Royal Sonesta Hotel. Okay, so see you on September 11th.
In the quarter?
In the quarter.
Good for you.
Well, that's the only place that we could find was pet friendly.
Gotcha.
Very hard to find pet friendly.
Yep.
Okay.
High
All
ground.
Right.
High
High ground.
ground.
It is high ground. Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Next is Marva.
Great topic, a stimulating conversation, a road trip back to our history. I shared many events which were brought out during the discussion. Galvanized tub, Saturday baths, in between wash-ups. Those were the days. And I thank my parents for making it tolerable. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, and an interesting conversation. Another topic I didn't really think about very much, especially in terms of how it's been racialized. And so I will say that lastly, it's interesting to me, and something that was also pointed out when I was listening to that podcast about, you know, how much energy people of color have to devote to defending themselves and their cleanliness and their hygiene because of all this. And that really shouldn't be a topic that people have to explain themselves of. As many people have said, it's your business and nobody else's. So I just made more aware of that particular aspect of it. So that one point was just interesting from my perspective. But yeah, I hope all of you are able to stay safe there, and I look forward to hopefully seeing all of you again in a couple of weeks. So be well.
Thank you. Beatrice.
Yeah, I want to sneak the bathroom door open of my childhood where we had hot water and cold water running at all, you know, all times. We bathed every night, and it was a big deal. I'm very conscious now of water usage, reusing water that I, you know, for plants, reusing for the bird bath and all of that stuff. There's up the street from my church, once a month, there is a group that does showers and clothes washing for unhoused people. And it's a wonderful, wonderful privilege to have that happen. This has been a really great discussion. I knew a person in Washington, D.C., a man who said when he was a little fella, his grandma would say, just wash the places that touch, honey, just wash the places that touch. And finally, Marjorie, I have put you on the erase list, and you should be getting an email. Thanks for the conversation, everybody. Y'all stay safe. And again, I'm honoring my husband, whose birthday would have been today, Lawrence C. Sublé Jr. Great man.
Thank you. Beatrice, do you want to send her email to the erase so I can put her on for our topics too?
Sure, baby. Yeah, okay. I send the email that y'all send me, I send to them, but I sure will.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And Marla, you are next.
Yep, I've got nothing else to add. I think this was an enlightening conversation as always. So thank y'all and see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you. Marion. You didn't unmute. You're still muted.
She unmuted and then went straight back.
Yeah, my finger struck the button again. Yeah, Nancy triggered a memory. We had a clawfoot bathtub in our home, but my maternal and paternal grandparents had galvanized tubs. And I can see both my grandmothers carrying pots of water to those galvanized tubs whenever we went to visit them. So this really triggered some memories, and I believe that all of us are truly blessed to be able to step into a bathtub or a shower. You have 2 bathrooms. Well, we have 2 bathrooms. We don't have to beat on the bathroom door to make the other person come out because they've been in the bathtub or the shower for 25 minutes. So we are truly blessed. All of us are. And most of you know, well, some of you know I'm a praying person. I've already told God I want to stay here a few more years. I don't want to drown because I want to see my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren at least reach 18. So I think we're going to be all right. And hope to see you all on September 11th. Just keep us in your thoughts and prayers. We're going to be all right.
Thanks, Marion. You be safe. Glenn.
Well, I enjoyed the topic, and I appreciate DD getting everybody to start telling the truth about how they were raised when it comes to bathing, hygiene. And that's about all I have to say. I really couldn't be myself in this subject, my normal self.
Maybe you have been your normal self. Thank you, everyone. I did not expect this conversation to bring on so many childhood memories. It didn't bring up any for me until this discussion. The article did not, or the other things I saw. But I've said before, I grew up with my 2 sets of grandparents were very different economically. One set belonged to a country club. The other set had running water in their house, but an outhouse. They didn't have a toilet in the house. So I remember taking baths at the grandparents who had, with the country club people, but I don't remember doing it at the other house. I do remember in the summer times, my mom would fill up one of those little plastic portable tubs, and there were 4 kids, and would put in some bubble bath, and we would get our summer baths all together in the pool in the backyard. Which kids, that was fun. It was warm outside, so it was in Ohio. Going into this, as I said in the beginning, it was raising of white privilege it was, like celebrities who, justify environmentalism with not being clean, which is ridiculous. I learned to take a sort of a environmental shower from German friends I had who, once they got all lathered up and everything as wet as they needed to be, they would stop the water until they needed to rinse off. And I had in seminary, my first roommates were a German woman and an American woman who had very, very long, thick, dark hair. And they were both white. And the woman with the long hair would spend so many hours or minutes or however long in the bathroom that the German person would start to become anxious. So it's just the cultural differences, even, it goes nationally and culturally and racially and economically. It really struck me and kind of hurt me in this article where the talked about the people on the border and the people in the Holocaust and how being unable to clean yourself dehumanizes the person to themselves and the person to their oppressors. It's a dehumanization sort of process. And for white people to brag about imposing that on themselves as if it's a form of privilege, and then at the same time thinking people of color are dirty, that is white supremacy. And I think we all have areas where we don't think about, like Michelle said, until something comes into our awareness. And then we're like, oh, I never thought of that before. I feel like when I'm in the grocery store, if I'm buying something for bathing, I feel like I want to put it really prominently in my basket so other people will see, since that Amanda Seals video. And I wasn't sure if anybody saw who the author of this was, but this is the author of this article. So she's not white, in my opinion. And so I think it came from a really place of probably having experienced those stereotypes and sort of, I can imagine becoming very angry hearing, wealthy white people brag about their uncleanliness. I think in the South, it is probably more likely that now more people bathe more often. I tend to wash my hair a lot, but I've had Black women be shocked at how much I wash my hair and worry for me. And so it's everybody's different. I would say everybody's different. I think most people want to be clean. I think all these childhood memories, as I said, have been amazing. And see if there's anything else I wrote down. No. So I appreciate everybody coming. And as I said, our next meeting will be the 11th. And I'm personally grateful for all the well wishes to go through this storm. There's a little thunder rumbling, but that's unrelated to the storm right now yet. That it hasn't got to us yet. Any other announcements? I'm going to stop the recording right